All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Real Talk with Spoon and Puddin. I'm the one and only Big Spoon.
I'll be the pud.
This will be episode 7.
Mm. Oh
I'm
yeah.
going to read a little disclaimer. Just to let y'all know, Big Spoon and Puddin here. This podcast is just solely to represent our opinions and thoughts on matters. Anytime anytime that we have facts or evidence to back up, we bring that and put it on. But we assume no responsibility or liability for anybody's actions, comments, errors, or omissions of anything they do off any topics we discuss on this podcast.
Yeah, that
All
was a
right.
little. It was a bit much, don't you think?
Well, just make sure that,
No. I think everybody knows it's just opinions. For podcasts, all right.
yeah, you don't never know when somebody's going to go do something stupid and say, Spoon and Puddin told me to do this.
Oh
It was on their
please.
it was on their podcast.
Mm. So you want to talk about your police report you got? Your investigation?
Uh, well, we can. I'd have to read it. It's over. Go do something stupid. Say Spoon and Puddin told me to do this. It was on their podcast. Let me turn that music down.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about local government a little bit. I got this is well over a year old. We have, if it's going to let me pull it up, I don't even know if it's going to let me pull it up. Yeah, here it is. We have a situation with somebody who works for the chamber who deals with the city who got pulled over on a traffic stop that was apparently intoxicated, but the somebody made a call to a police officer and showed up and picked them up, and
So basically, it's they work for the chamber, and since they work for the chamber, they didn't have to go to jail for a DUI.
pretty much. And
Mm.
the
Is that is it?
officers involved, only one of them got a suspension for 4 days, but it was months later before it's brought up. So I'm going to read the investigation afterwards. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, stay with me. This is the police department's criminal investigation on 11/17. Hey, Ricky, what's up, man? On 11/17/2020, Detective Jason Arnold was directed by Chief Williams to open an internal investigation concerning
You getting distracted again?
concerning allegations against Sergeant Charles Hope stemming from a traffic stop that was conducted on 8/22 of 2020. All right, now, note this is 3 months
Year and a
later that they
half.
opened the investigation.
But
Yeah,
still
a year and
about
a
a
half
year and a
ago,
half.
but it was 3 months later when they opened the investigation after it happened. On 11/18 of 2020 at approximately 9:22, I spoke with Officer Craddock in my office concerning these allegations. Officer Craddock advised on 8/22/2020 between the hours of 21 and 2200, he and Officer Azer, or Azar, Azer, was pulled up next to each other in the parking lot of the PD watching traffic on Highway 109. Officer Craddock stated that he saw a white SUV traveling northbound without headlights on due to this. Uh, Officer Azar conducted a traffic stop on this vehicle as Officer Craddock backed him up. Officer Craddock advised that Azar asked the driver to exit the vehicle, and Officer Craddock identified the driver immediately as Kristen Daughtry, who works at the Portland Chamber of Commerce. Officer Craddock stated Kristen did not look like herself and appeared intoxicated, clarifying that Kristen had slurred speech, glassy eyes, and smelled of alcohol. Officer Craddock stated Kristen told them that she had just left the farm to table event with the Chamber of Commerce. Officer Craddock stated Officer Azar started conducting field sobriety tasks with Kristen, who at that point was obviously intoxicated. Officer Craddock stated at some point during the investigation, Sergeant Hope called his cell phone and asked to speak with Officer Azar. Officer Craddock stated he didn't know what Officer Azar and Sergeant Hope's conversation entailed, but Sergeant Hope showed up to the scene shortly after in his truck with Tyler Harvey. And I think Tyler Harvey is a firefighter. if I got my facts straight there. Officer Craddock stated that Officer Azar was not happy about what was happening, and Officer Craddock stated that when Sergeant Hope arrived, Sergeant Hope ordered Kristen to get her ass in the truck. Officer Craddock stated Tyler Harvey got into Kristen's vehicle and drove away. And from there, Kristen walked to the passenger side of her vehicle when Sergeant Hope stated, "So you're riding with Tyler." Officer Craddock stated Kristen then walked to Sergeant Hope's vehicle and got in the passenger seat. Officer Craddock stated Sergeant Hope told him that he told Kristen not to drive, but she did anyway. Officer Craddock stated Tyler Harvey, Sergeant Hope, and Kristen Daughtry traveled northbound on Highway 109 in their respective vehicles. Officer Craddock stated that Officer Brandon Long, who was a sergeant at the time, showed up as Tyler, Sergeant Hope, and Kristen Daughtry were leaving the scene. Officer Craddock stated that Officer Long was very upset about what had happened, as were they all. Officer Craddock stated he didn't believe the Officer Azar finished his field sobriety task, but stated Kristen Daughtry was definitely drunk. Officer Craddock stated he remembered that Kristen told them that she had a glass of wine around 1800 that evening, but Sergeant Hope stated she had been drinking more than that. Officer Craddock stated Sergeant Hope called them all afterwards and apologized for what happened. Officer Craddock stated Sergeant Hope told them he was going to tell Lieutenant Ellis what had happened and that he expected an ass chewing for what he did. Officer Craddock stated he, Officer Long, and Azar talked about what happened, and they all agreed that they should not have let Sergeant Long take Kristen from the scene, but it happened so fast that they didn't think it through what was happening.
What was happening? If your place was from another state, you're going to jail. That's what's
these
happening.
Are police officers of our town now. They're trained, but they didn't think about it. Okay. On the same date, at approximately 10 o'clock, it's 2000. I spoke with Officer Azar in my office concerning the same incident. Azar stated on 8/22/20, he and Officer Craddock pulled up next to each other in the parking lot. Police department when he saw an SUV driving northbound on Highway 19 without headlights. Azar stated he conducted a traffic stop. He stated that he had the driver exit the vehicle, and Craddock recognized her being Kristen Daughtry. He states that she told him she had 2 or 3 glasses of wine. So she told one officer 1 glass, the other one 2 or 3 glasses. They both say she was drunk. I'm not going to read the whole thing here.
And she wasn't arrested.
But with Azar, because he pretty much says everything that Officer Craddock said, but he said she was definitely intoxicated to at least a 0.08 blood alcohol level or more by his experience. He remembers Sergeant Hope calling himself and Officer Craddock during the traffic stop. They showed up to get her, You go down here. And then 11/19/2020, at approximately 8:22, I spoke again with Officer Azar by phone concerning the incident. Azar advised he had an audio recording of the field sobriety task he performed on Kristen Daughtry and was able to clarify that he did finish the field sobriety task, confirming that Kristen was intoxicated. This is Kristen Daughtry, who works for the chamber in the city. They're 2 peas in a pod. They work hand in hand. Azar stated he stopped the recording because speaking with Sergeant Hope, Azar stated he would send the recording to me later. On 11/19 at 9:29, I spoke with Officer Long in my office concerning the incident. Officer Long stated on 8/20/20 he was parked at Old USA Steel parking lot of Fountain Hill Road when he heard the traffic stop come over the radio. Officer Long stated within 2 minutes he received a call from Officer Craddock advising him that Kristen Daughtry stopped and she appeared to be intoxicated. Officer Long stated that he knows Kristen and didn't want to respond to the traffic stop, but told Officer Craddock to do what he had to be done. Officer Long stated that shortly after hanging out with Officer Craddock, Sergeant Hope called him and advised him that Kristen had called him, telling him that she had been stopped. Officer Long stated Sergeant Hope told him that he told Kristen not to leave the event and he would drive her home. Officer Long stated Sergeant Hope asked if Kristen was going to jail and asked if there was anything that could be done. Officer Long stated he did not know all the details of what was happening and advised Sergeant Hope to call Officer Craddock or Officer Azar. Officer Long stated in retrospect that he should not have done this. So you got one sergeant who's a lieutenant telling another officer that's off duty to call 2 officers that have got somebody pulled over uh, to call them so he can go pick her up so she don't get arrested. Officer Long stated that he felt weird about what was going on and started heading toward the traffic stop. Officer Long advised when he arrived on the scene, Sergeant Hope was present and Kristen was in Sergeant Hope's truck. Officer Long stated someone else was driving Kristen's vehicle away from the scene as Sergeant Hope drove Kristen from the scene. Officer Long stated that Sergeant Hope called everyone to apologize for what happened, and Officer Long told Azar and Officer Craddock that this won't ever happen again. Excuse me. Officer Long stated that he was pissed about what happened and was visibly upset during the interview. Officer Long stated Sergeant Hope told him he had talked to Lieutenant Ellis about what happened. Lieutenant Ellis made contact with Officer Long about the situation. Officer Long stated that due to the past experience, he told Lieutenant Ellis it was under the water under the bridge and everybody was moving on. Officer Long stated he didn't go into detail with Lieutenant Ellis over what transpired and didn't want to get Sergeant Hope into trouble. Officer Long stated he didn't know exactly that Sergeant Hope told Lieutenant Ellis, but Officer Hope had intense conversations about the incident. Officer Long stated after the conversation, he was sure that Sergeant Hope would never do this again. So I'm going to stop right there before we read more. So you got other officers covering the other because they didn't want them to get in trouble. That's why you have such a big disconnect from citizens of towns or citizens of this country and police, because there's two standards.
But all I'm saying is this is in Sumner County, Portland. If the tag says anything other than Sumner or Tennessee, for that matter, is a person going straight to jail?
Oh, if it's me or you, we're going straight to jail.
Well, I know. I mean, I'm just saying,
the only reason she didn't go to jail is because she works for the chamber.
That's not an excuse.
She's dating another officer, apparently, or they're friends, and they're friends with the firefighter. So another off-duty officer shows up with the firefighter. Firefighter drives her vehicle home. The officer takes her home, all because there's corruption connected with your police department, your city, and the Chamber of Commerce.
How are you going to weed the corruption out?
Ricky says they're dating. So thank you, Ricky. So I'm going to keep on reading. On the same date at approximately 10:41, I spoke with Sergeant Hope in my office concerning the incident. Sergeant Hope stated on 8/22/2020, he and his wife, Katie Hope, went to the farm to table event in Portland, Tennessee. Sergeant Hope stated he and Katie then went to a party at Meg Thompson's residence, while Kristen Daughtry stayed at the farm to table event. Now, Meg Thompson is a city council alderman, if y'all don't know. Sergeant Hope stated that Kristen was intoxicated and let her know that they were coming to get her so she wouldn't try to drive home. Sergeant Hope stated that Kristen never called him, but he learned that she was stopped by Officer Azar and Craddock by looking at the CAD system. Sergeant Hope stated that he called Officer Long to see what was going on, and Officer Long told him that he wasn't on scene. Sergeant Hope stated he called Officer Craddock and spoke with Officer Azar concerning the traffic stop and advised Officer Azar that they will come get Kristen if that's okay. Sergeant Hope stated he told Officer Azar if Kristen was intoxicated, then do his job, but if it was borderline, he would pick her up and take her home. Sergeant Hope stated Officer Azar told him to come pick her up from the traffic stop. Sergeant Hope stated when he arrived on scene, Tyler Harvey got into Kristen's vehicle and Kristen got into Sergeant Hope's truck. Sergeant Hope stated that they dropped Kristen and her vehicle off at her residence. Then Sergeant Hope drove Tyler back to the party. Sergeant Hope stated on the way back to the party, Tyler had reservations concerning what they had just done. As did Sergeant Hope. Sergeant Hope stated once they arrived back at the party, he picked up his wife and they went home. Sergeant Hope stated he told Lieutenant Ellis what happened the next day and didn't sleep for approximately 40 hours after the incident. Sergeant Hope took full responsibility for his actions and apologized for what happened for putting these officers in that position. Due to the results of the investigation, it was found that Sergeant Hope interfered with a criminal investigation in violation of the City of Portland Personnel Policy 6.1, Rule 13, abuse of positions. These findings of this investigation will be forwarded to Chief Williams. All right, I can tell you the determination and what came is he got 4 days suspension. That was it, 4 days. So the officer that called and went and picked her up, he got 4 days, right? The other officers involved, to my knowledge, didn't get anything. Now, I'm not saying that for a fact. I'm just saying to my knowledge. I'm doing research on this stuff. This is just one example of our local police department, city, and chamber of commerce being in bed together and protecting each other. So you got Officer Craddock, you got Officer Azar who pulled Miss Daughtry over. You got Officer Long who told Sergeant Hope that he could call one of the other officers, and then you got Sergeant Hope that shows up and takes her away from the scene. So you have 4 police officers, 3 that were on duty, 1 off duty, and a firefighter, all involved in this. And it took over 3 months before it got to the chief for the chief to issue investigations on this. So what are your thoughts on this, Puddin?
Well, I already told you, you're going to have to go in there and flip the aldermanship, and somebody's going to have to run for mayor. And then they're going to have to fire a lot of people. I mean, it's the only way to fix this town. But that's any small town. It's not just this town. You think this doesn't happen in other towns?
Oh yeah, it does.
If you're connected, you get away. It's just like, all the way up to federal government. They don't do no crime or no time for the crimes. I mean, if we did it, they'd take us to jail, but not them.
And I can tell y'all, I spoke to the mayor on the phone about this, and I don't know if y'all want to know what he said or not. But I asked
Didn't you say it was
him
just political jargon?
Yeah, he danced around everything. I point blank asked him. I'm like, Mr. Mayor, I learned that the council gave you the authority to hire and fire city officials. This is not board members. This is just city employees, right? And I asked him, I said, why didn't you fire that officer on the spot? Of course, then he danced around. This is what I was recommended and advised to, and I went by that, and this is what it came out to. And of course, I asked him some other things, and but but he just, like I said, he done the political dance around, which is what I expected.
What about the dash cam of the sobriety test? That just absolutely vanished?
I don't know if it has not.
I mean, I don't know, Spoon.
I'm going to do more research on this. The problem is when you go to the city and request, put in your FOIA request for public information, somehow that information is gone, right? Whether it's police body cams or who's asked for information,
unless it benefits somebody over there,
right? I have a whole list of things that I need to get to and get up there, and I'm not saying this particular thing has come up missing, but because I haven't personally requested the body cams or the car cams of this, but I'm going to. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I could probably tell you with almost certainty that about 80 to 90% proof that there's not going to be any body cams. There's not going to be any car cams available. If they are, I'm going to get them, and I'm going to let y'all listen to
Well, they're probably available. They're just sitting in a filing cabinet safe somewhere in case these people act up, and then they'll bring them out.
But what's supposed to be public information, they're going to tell me, oh no, we don't have those. Something happened to them, or it wasn't recording at the time.
Oh.
Ricky says the problem is they brought in non-local officers thinking it would weed out corruptions. As you can see, it didn't work. It never works. Brenda said my own kids would arrest me for drinking and driving. Kimberly says, I know for a fact that if it had been me, no doubt I'd been going to jail. Of course. If it had been any of us talking or listening here, we'd have went to jail. And like you said, Puddin, it's not just in this town, but fortunately we get to highlight this town because this is the town we live in.
My thoughts, like I said, already, we've talked about it all last week, was some people need to run for alderman who are ready to fix it and stand together and then keep the corrupt people out of here. Um, like I stated to you and talked about near where I grew up, that town was a dump back in the day, and now it's a really nice town. And all they did was spent some money in a positive direction. Putting in a little water pavilion park for kids and a nice farmers market that isn't run by corrupt people that lived here forever. It's not, you don't have to act that way to people that we know who we're talking about, so we're not going to mention that name. But just a farmer's market is a farmer's market. If you've got stuff to sell, you should be allowed to sell it. you know but that was, we talked about that the other day, but it still comes down to, when is this town going to go to the rich people who've milked all kinds of money out of it and get them to upgrade the buildings and do stuff for the citizens? They're not.
It,
It doesn't benefit them.
this is my opinion, that until we change and flip the votes of the board, because if you ever watch any of these meetings, and I encourage everybody to do, when they put things on the agenda, they only put things on the agenda that they want to vote for.
Well, they've already had their meeting over at Five Chefs and got their marching orders from the rich
Pretty
people.
much. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
They already know what they're going to do,
Uh,
and they know who all's going to get benefited.
you got a certain councilwoman who's on there. She comes from the Collins name, right? She's only there because of her name, and her mother heads up the Chamber of Commerce. So you do the math, all right? You people listening, you do the math. What way is she voting? Is she voting for the people, or is she voting for what her mother tells her to do? Or what the chamber wants her to do?
Construction companies or real estate benefits for them.
Well, we got other councilmen that they only put things on the agenda so that themselves or their cronies can get the bids on construction jobs that the city has. That don't just happen in this town; it happens in every small town. But like I said, this is our small town. We need to do something about that. Mm-hmm. Just like Ricky said, he said, if you go request that information, you run the risk of being washed and harassed. And just like we're speaking on this tonight, I'm probably going to be harassed and watched. That's fine. Guess what? Somebody's got to call them out. Somebody's got to make a difference. Somebody's got to make a change. Mm-hmm. Me and Puddin's talked about this many, many times over and over. And
we talked about this years ago when we were working up there and talking to, because, Latimer, basically, he grew up in that town I'm talking about, in Florida, Winter Garden, Florida. If anybody listening would like to look at it, you just Google Winter Garden, Florida farmers market, Crooked Can, and there's a pavilion park, and all they did was, them houses were junk down there, and the city was falling apart, and all they did was come in there with city money and use government power and put in some nice new sidewalks and just made the place look presentable and brought in some things that people want to do, and it just turned around on its own. But the money people in this town that block businesses out and continue to fight, well, eventually somebody's going to have to stand up to them, because, the government's not doing it. What was it you said last week? They spend $1.83 million on lights at an off ramp that ain't even in the city limits.
Well, Ricky just touched on what I was talking about exactly. On the council to just see what's coming down the pipeline, approving and passing things just to fatten pockets, get kickback, etc. And they try to tell you as a citizen that you can't get something on the agenda. They want to tell you, well, you can get it on the agenda. You just got to call the mayor or the alderman, and if they call you back.
Well, what did the mayor's secretary tell you last week? That she doesn't work for you?
Yeah, she tried to tell me, because I wasn't being rude or not, but she was trying to give me the runaround, and I told, I don't know if it's a secretary or assistant or not. I don't want to. I forgot her name, so I don't want to misrepresent. But she tried to tell me that well, that's not how we do it. And I said, ma'am, well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but just because that's not how y'all been doing it doesn't mean you've been doing it the right way. The citizens uh, can request things to be put on the agenda and topics to speak of. And she said something else, and I said, ma'am, I hate to tell you this, but you know, you and the mayor and everybody else, they work for us. And she says, no, I work for the mayor and somebody else. And I said, ma'am, do you get paid with taxpayer dollars? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, well, I hate to break it to you. You work for the citizens of this town.
See, if the mayor or somebody's listening, why don't they exempt the people from taxes? Then there's no conflict of interest, right? Since they seem to think that you know they don't work for you, but they can sure take your. And you said the sewage system going to Mitchellville.
Yeah. Well,
Go
that's
ahead.
another thing I hit on. I live, most people know where I live on. I live on Fowler Ford. I'm like 1.1, 1.2 miles directly straight line behind Matco, right? No, I can't get sewer, right? The sewer don't run down our road.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty much right in the center of town, right? But Mitchellville and Woods Road have sewer system. Does anybody else that's listening have issues with that? Y'all probably live on roads in town that maybe y'all don't have sewer, but outside of town, way out Woods Road and Mitchellville, which is not even part of our town,
They're
they have,
pushing sewage lines.
yeah, they're pushing sewers line.
Yeah.
Latimer just said he sent the council pics of Winter Garden. They
Oh,
yeah
he's done it.
they done a lot of improvement there, didn't they? They paid
Oh
attention.
yeah, no, it's a yeah, it's
And I want to make myself perfectly clear here. I'm not saying anything against the mayor or anybody personally, right? Some of the people I don't know personally. They may be great, wonderful people, uh, but when they are voted in and they are supposed to represent the taxpayers and spend our money in a manner that we would want and do things that the city really needs. And all you find is them wasting money and padding the pockets of themselves and their friends and their cronies and uh, only putting things on the agenda that they want and only passing things they want because they've already met and talked about this
it's
beforehand.
but
Uh,
it's but what I feel like is it's an absolute shame as much robbery as these people have been away to get a you know as the amount of stuff they've been able to get away with,
and let
how
me make
much
this
money
clear:
they've been, well,
it's
how
not
much
just
money
this
they've
board.
enriched themselves.
It's
Okay,
not
how
just this
much?
council members and board. It's
No,
not just this mayor. It's been going on. But at
but
what point do we say, as the people,
but
enough is enough?
they don't they enrich themselves, but then they don't want to make the town look good. It's like, what? Where's your kickback and your contribution to the citizens you stole your money from? I know me and Latimer talked a lot about this at one time. He talked about the fluoride in the water,
Yeah.
and I mean, you know, if y'all guys think fluoride in the water is good for your teeth, then I guess you should drink nail polish so you can get the paint off your nails, right? I
And I,
mean,
and I don't know. I don't know if y'all watch these council meetings, or some of you may go to them. I try to watch them. If I can't watch them live, I go back and watch them, and sometimes I go back and rewatch them and listen because I'm trying to listen to things. Uh, just like last week, they voted the farmers bank that was donated to the city, instead of selling it or holding on to it and turning it into something, they decided that they were going to lease it to the Chamber of Commerce because the chamber does so much for the city. Uh,
yeah,
it
like
was either $1 a month or $1 a year. So they're going to lease this building to the chamber, which they say the chamber does so much for the city. Yet the city gives the chamber so much money every year. You see what I'm saying? These two are tied together. It's not like the chamber's
well,
donating or
if you
doing all this for the city. They're getting paid on one side, so the city can say, "Well, look what all the chamber does for the city," and the chamber can say, "Look what all the city does for us." Um,
well if you got a employee badge from the chamber, apparently DUI, you're exempted from that.
that's right. That's right. So
So
I think I'm going to go
city does
to.
things for the chamber, right?
I
Let
think
them
I'm going
off.
to go. I'm going to go up there to Miss Collins uh, and request if
Yes,
I can
they
be on the
are.
chamber. And then I'm not a drinker, but I'm going to drink and I'm going to go drive through town and see if I get off.
Well,
I'm
you
gonna,
wouldn't want to be the exception to the
it's
non-rule that's already
the
happened.
exception to the non-rule.
Yeah, the exception to the non-rule.
Uh,
Because
I was just being sarcastic there, but um, what but what I'm getting at, they were ready to hurry and vote. You had one councilman wanting more discussion on it, and they try to put things on the agenda, and they want everybody to fall in line and have no discussion, right? They just put things on there. They're ready to vote yes, yes, yes. If you watch these meetings, you hardly ever hear a no or abstain. You hear all in favor, aye, all opposed. Most of the time, you hear nothing. But
agreed.
last week, you heard an alderman, no, I want more discussion. They discussed a little bit, and like, well, let's just vote. Let's just vote. They're in such a hurry to vote and move things through that they put on the agenda because they've already got it all lined up. I think it's a disgrace. Number one, it's uh, it's not them doing their due diligence to represent the people. It's not in the best interest of this town and the people because just like that farmers bank that was donated to the city, what was the rush to hurry up and make a decision on what you was going to do with that building or lease that building or donate that building? All right, you have I'm going to make this point. You have a lady in that runs Portland Pay It Forward that works her butt off uh, to help the citizens of this town, or even if they don't live in this town that can't afford food or diapers or medicine, whatever she can, she works her butt off. Sometimes day in and day out to make sure that she gives this community, the people of this community that needs. And she has the food giveaways. I think it's every Friday or every other Friday. And you even got the other one, Hands of Hope, that they do similar to the same thing. Uh, myself, I would rather had it donated to say Portland Pay It Forward to run out of than to lease it to the chamber for $1 a month or $1 a year. What have they decided? But they don't care what the people want, right? That's the whole point I'm trying to get across. And when I told you, I'm not trying to talk bad about these people on the board or the mayor personally. It's the position they're
Have they
in.
earned it? No, wait a minute. Have they earned it?
I don't personally. I'm not going to attack them personally at all.
I'm
I'm
not. I'm.
attacking.
I'm not.
I'm,
Not talking
I'm
about
attacking their.
personally.
I'm attacking their position. Have they earned the criticism? Yes, they
Yeah,
have.
that's what I'm saying. Have
Uh,
they earned it by not doing good projects in the town? Projects that people want. You know, they're not
and I
interested in it.
and I called the mayor and left messages. I think it was 3 days in a row. Uh, they put me to the recorder and his assistant, and I kept leaving messages. And not until sent him an email and told him, "Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I would like to talk to you before the agenda set, before the deadline hit, so you can't say, oh well, you didn't get it in before the deadline." And finally, he called me back. You think that was by coincidence or by design? I
What,
think it was
calling you
by
back?
design. Yeah, because once the paper trail was there, he said, "Well, I better call him back." But when I was just leaving messages by phone, he wasn't worried about talking to the citizen. You know why? There wasn't a paper trail. But as soon as I sent that email and started that paper trail where I could show and be transparent with people, hey, see these emails that are read but not responded to, no phone call. He was scared of his appearance to the public. It's just like now where he's trying to give the city employees raises and stuff like that. He's setting up for the run again of the seat of mayor. It's not because he's concerned about the workers of the city. It's all politics, and we need to get. My opinion is we need to get the politics out and get people in there that represent the city and represent the residents of this town to do the right thing.
Mm, It's it'd be nice to go in there and actually use the power and start making the city better. I mean, you know, number one, I don't know how many people on here agree with the fluoride thing. I'd prefer not to buy any drinks in Portland if it's fed with city water. I take gallons of water with me when I go,
Yeah.
from the house. Because I'm glad I got a well. I don't want that junk.
Well, I buy bottled water. We don't drink the city water.
But they are. Did you say they were charging you for sewer?
No, it's on my bill. I don't know if they're charging me or not. I had to go get it, but it shows a line for sewer on there. But I
I don't know
know
if there's a
I know
fee
many
for it.
years ago it had a line on sewer and they were charging us something, and I had to call them and get it taken off there. But I don't know if I don't pay that much attention anymore.
No, you're you're a mile away and they got sewage going out 7 miles. What makes you think you're important?
Well, Ricky just said Jim Courtney Road. It was right behind the city park, and the city parks department, Public Works. They don't have sewer, but Mitchellville and Woods
It's
Road they
getting
have.
sewer,
Yeah, they're getting sewer.
even though
Uh,
they're in the country and they can just have septic. It doesn't matter.
but see, it all depends on who has land, who has uh, real estate. You tell your little thing about Dave.
Oh well, our safety guy uh, had a house that had it was a 2-story farmhouse, and he said he would try to get the city to subdivide it. Want to divide it into turn it into like 4 apartments, and he was going to rent to 4 people,
And
and
how long did he try?
he didn't really go into that. He never called me back. I wanted to ask him more details about that, but it was Friday afternoon before I texted him. But he said he ended up selling the house because they wouldn't let him do it, and then somebody who was well connected got the house and then was able to do exactly what he was trying to do.
You don't want to say his name?
We'll leave that for. Like I said, we can't. You don't have to talk about things like that. We talk about the current aldermans and the public people.
I got
You
you.
know, past aldermen, but no, it's kind of ridiculous when somebody's trying to turn one house into a place for 4 people to live, and the city says, "Oh, that's no." But a well-connected person buys it and then gets it done.
It's all about who you are, or who you know, or how much money you have. That's
And that shouldn't be
and,
the case.
and it's sad that it is that way.
No, it's sad, and the people who have all this money in this town that they should be held accountable for their actions. They should be
Yes,
told to improve their businesses, make the town more presentable. Um, there's no reason that I mean, I don't remember who runs CF at that trucking company. What an eyesore! That place is just. Oh my gosh! I mean, you want to talk about just hillbilly Barney Fife-ish,
well,
letting
I
that
mean,
persist.
just think about the waste of when they remodeled.
The
You talk
city,
about
the,
when they
the,
remodeled the city hall, and I went and done the
that was
audit up
what
there, and the mayor walked around.
I told you as soon as you did it. I said the thing shocked me the most is how he just let $5 million roll off the tongue like it was nothing.
But it was well over 5 million
Well,
just to
I mean,
remodel that city hall. And guess what? They done all that work to remodel city hall, and what they were
and
going to do that.
this is pre-COVID, right? Or
Yeah,
at the beginning.
at the beginning. Yeah, I mean,
So that's what I'm saying.
it
We ain't
started
even.
pre-COVID anyway. But
Well, it was started, but I mean, still, we're talking about way less building costs. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Less inflation, less building costs. And I'm looking at it like y'all got ripped. Whoever agreed to pay that for that building, y'all really.
But the point is here, when they redid all that, did they not think, hey, let's go ahead and get it all done in one swoop, where we're going to put the police station in and be done with it? Instead, now they've spent well over $5 million to remodel the old city hall, right? So now they're going to
Now, what's
want to,
next on the agenda?
well, they're
Remodel
going,
of the old Farmers Bank for the the commission. Uh
Red's coming in.
oh no,
No,
he's working on it.
it's going to be they're going to be wanting to build a new police station.
Got to get that right. There we go.
They're going to want to build a new police station and spend another how many $4, $5, $6 million when they could have put everybody in the same building and had all your city officials in the same building.
So you're digging a hole, huh, Red?
Yes.
The casino line is you don't show up with a package. You dig the hole before you show up with the package.
Well, I had the forklift in play.
Have you been listening to our podcast, or are you just now just jumping in?
Just now jumping in, sir.
Okay.
Talking about the city corruption.
Well, yeah.
All right, local issues.
Okay.
Yeah, and I read the investigation where 2 officers pulled over a lady who was drunk that worked for the Chamber of Commerce, and the off-duty officer was allowed to call one of the officers and come and pick her up and bring a friend who was a firefighter in her vehicle and leave the scene, even though she was drunk. And the chief didn't find out till several months later. They finally done an investigation, and 1 officer out of all 4 got 4-day suspension out of the matter.
So don't you wish you could be intoxicated, Red, and call up your buddy, the police officer, because you work at the commission, and sleeping with one of the police officers, and then you can just get out of it,
Get out of jail free, baby.
Well,
Monopoly.
I didn't know they printed those in real life, but I guess they do here in Portland.
So I guess next time I get pulled over, and if I've had a glass of wine or something, I'll just say, which officer can I call that I can go to bed with that he'll get me out of this?
Yeah. Hey, there we go.
Called qualified immunity.
Maybe I'll rub my nipples and go, I work for the chamber. Let me go.
Show everybody how you rub them nipples.
Called qualified immunity.
Well, of course,
Cops have it all the time.
There's no such thing.
What I was talking on was the correlation with the city is in bed with the chamber, and the chamber and the city is in bed with the police department. So you got corruption all the way around, because the city sits here, they donated. We had a Farmers Bank donated to the city, and last week they voted to lease it to the chamber for it's either $1 a month or $1 a year, somewhere in there. It's something like that. But and they were such in a hurry to vote yes to do that, because the chamber does so much for the city, right? And you had one councilman wanting more discussion and voted no on it, but they were, no, let's just go ahead and vote. Let's go ahead and vote. And, the chamber does so much for us, but the city pays the chamber so much every year, gives them money so much every year. So the chamber can claim the city does so much for us because they get money. And then the city can claim, look, the chamber does so much for us because the chamber's doing stuff for the city. No, they're getting paid for it. That's a business deal, right? Let's just be honest and tell us what it is. We have our friends, our cronies, and we have a business deal. We're going to call it, we're donating to the chamber, a nonprofit, and the nonprofit's going to say, we're donating this and this and this and doing this for the city. But all in all, it's a business transaction. It's no different if you went to a hooker, right? It's a business transaction.
Uh-oh.
I try to put it in blunt terms. It's a business transaction, right?
Yes.
What do you think, Red?
Well, as far as I suppose it's a symbiotic relationship as far as that. The Chamber of Commerce is what pimps the city, and the city, of course, is going to probably be as favorable to the people that are promoting them as possible. So it's a scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of a thing, and I suppose which is truly politics in the end when you think about it. And the
issue I have with is the lies and the corruption behind it. Just come out and be honest. I'm a man of integrity and a man of morals, and I like full transparency, right? Just come out and tell me exactly what it is. I may not like it, but guess what? I'm gonna go. They were honest. I mean, what are you gonna do about it? They didn't lie to us.
I mean,
Right.
when I see a homeless man who's sitting out there and he's like, "Why lie? I need a beer." I'm more inclined to give him some money.
Yeah,
You
I seen one of the panhandlers or homeless. What do you want to say? He was holding a sign saying something about
Be
whatever. But
clever.
yeah, it was pretty funny. But he said, I need beer and boobs or something. And I was like, dude, here's $10. We'll get you some. You know, if you don't find the boobs, at least you'll be drunk. You know.
Well, it's funny when they're asking for money out in the parking lot of the truck stop, and then they're like, "Oh man, I'm hungry. You got $1? I can get a sandwich." And I'm like, "Well, I'm about to go in. You want me to buy you a sandwich?" "Oh no, that's all right." And then they walk off, and it's like, "Yeah, I know what you wanted.
Yeah, they wanted the money.
Yeah,
Well,
buy you a sandwich."
Just tell me you want a fifth of Colt 45 or something. You know.
Yeah, well, yeah. Go. You want a 6-pack? I'll buy it for you. Let's go in. I'll get you drunk. It's the dishonesty that's the problem. But there's a lot of rich people in this town that are just only out for their own benefit. They don't care about making the town better. We already know that.
So we're trying to find and talk about ways to get the corruption and the
Bring it under
scratch
control.
my back scratch
Yeah.
out of the equation. Now,
Put a lasso on all these.
I'm a smart enough man. I know you're not going to eliminate all of it, right? I would love to, but I'm a smart enough man knowing you're not going to. But right
You
now,
could definitely, patch a lot of the leaking holes in the bucket.
just like just like them wanting to try to remove the one alderman over his issues, pending investigation, litigation on what he said on his personal time. But they found out he's violated no policy or charter or constitution or bylaws of the city, so they have no grounds to remove him, right? But the real reason they want to remove him, they're using that as excuses because apparently he doesn't fall in line with the rest of them, right? He has pushback. He votes no on things. He wants more discussion. And that's my opinion. That's what I see from the outside looking in. That's the only reason they want him removed, right? They're using the other as an excuse, which all three of us, I can speak for all three of us that we don't condone, support anybody using anything racial or being mean to anybody whatsoever.
I defend your right to do it if you so choose.
We defend your First Amendment right to speak your mind or say anything you want to say. We defend any constitutional right, whether the next person is offended or they don't like it or not, because the person next to you who wants to silence you wants their First Amendment right.
Oh yeah, they want their First
Amendment. They want to take away your First Amendment right.
No, people don't think no more in this country. It's by design. They, teach you enough to follow orders, but not enough to ask questions.
That's right.
It's the ultimate goal. Uh-oh. Oh no.
I seen the kitty.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, Red?
What's been going on for you? Digging holes in the desert with packages.
Well, I had to load. I had to go in and load my truck today.
Did you join the old rig mafia or something?
Yes.
Digging holes.
And so I had to dig a hole because unfortunately, while I was loading my truck, I backed out. Because a pallet, it's always a little bit shorter when you're bringing a pallet in, and so I was short on one side of my space, and then when I backed out of it to get the forks all the way out, I ran over the top of the sewer check valve, and it broke. So I could have just left it, I suppose, but I was like, well, let me go ahead and own up to it as far as that goes. And as you said, transparency. We all like transparency, and this way here, my boss, she would be able to deal with it sooner rather than later. And so I dug the hole, I dug the fitting out where it was and everything. I sent put in the pictures already, and and took those pictures and sent them to her, and was like, hey, it happened.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And so she was like anything else, when you're talking about transparency, when you're talking about honesty, when you're honest with people and stuff like that. And I don't think she was happy probably in the back of her mind, because she's gonna have to make some phone calls and have some service calls come out and stuff, and we're gonna have to replace that section of pipe and everything. But she was at least happy that, let's say, I just ignored it and maybe got the rake out and pushed it around a little, tried to make it look as good as possible, because man, I had to dig about a 3-foot hole, 4-foot hole to get down there to that fitting where it had actually broke off at. And man, and it was like windy as all get out, man. And I don't know, I know Puddin's been in the desert. I don't know if Spoon's ever been in the desert.
No, he ain't. He's one of them East Coast sissies.
It's like the wind starts blowing, and it's just like it's a kitty litter box, and all the dust just sweeps right up, and here I am at ground level trying to dig out a hole with my e-tool.
Yay.
Well, we gotta talk we want to talk on a quick subject before we end tonight about weed. What do you think about that?
Oh, well, with that in mind, what was it, 2 weeks ago, became recreationally legal in the state of New Mexico.
Oh,
it had already had medical as far as that. And
they followed Congress then.
What Congress?
Congress voted, was it last week?
The Mexican Congress.
No, Congress voted at the end of the week before, not this Friday, but the Friday before, to legalize or take it off of the Schedule 1.
This was voted in on the presidential when the presidential.
Oh, but it's been waiting to go.
Yeah. Well, nothing is. We already had the medical, but like anything else, they have to put in the.
Ask the people.
Well, no, they voted yes. They voted yes for it, but then once you get the yes vote, of course, they never have anything in there yet as far as how they're going to legislate it. And so it took them about 1.5 years to go ahead and get everything in place. The taxation of it, who's going to sell it, who isn't going to sell it, just general laws. I think each individual New Mexican citizen can grow, I think it's like 4 to 5 plants, and they have to be so tall, they have to be so wide to fit into a particular area. And you have to have, it has to be on your property. It cannot be, I cannot live in my apartment and grow pot plants on the back side. It has to be my property, because they only allow 5 plants. I think it's 5 or 10 plants per property.
Per property.
To grow. Yeah, for your own personal consumption.
They really would rather you not grow any plants. They want you to go buy it so you can pay them big tax money. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah.
But we talked about it, but we didn't talk about it much last week. But we were talking about how Congress had got it voted. Me and Spoon have been talking about that, and it's like, yeah, well, now the Senate needs to move, because even though it may be legal out there, you can't smoke it because you're a commercial driver.
No. Nope.
You're still subject to all the, the DOT physicals. They need to, if they take it off, then you'd be able to.
Yeah, we need to
I
get it
assume
off.
so.
It's what, Schedule 1?
Yeah, it's called Schedule 1 drug.
We need to get it off our everybody's employer's checklist of what they need to test for.
Oh, there's a lot of employers that don't, they don't drug test just because they know they'll lose half their workforce. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, oddly enough, so my son was in the weed business when he moved up into Mount Dora. He went to work for Curaleaf at their processing plant. It was the farm, but he worked in the areas where they cured and where they extracted terpenes and stuff like that. And believe it or not, he still had to drug test in order to get that job, which was so odd to me. It's like, and they tested for cannabis. One of the other things is I also encouraged him. Yeah. I encouraged him also to go ahead and get his medical card, because in the state of Florida, you have a medical weed. And because had he hurt himself on the job, imagine this now. You're working for a medical marijuana grower. And if he had gotten hurt on the job and went and, because of workers' comp and all that kind of stuff, they have to drug test. Without that medical card, he would have been fired and his workers' comp probably would not have been honored. Yeah, because,
because he's selling weed to people. Yeah, okay.
Well, no, what he was doing there was manufacturing, the growing and the manufacturing of the weed.
I posted a couple memes about weed. I think earlier today on my Facebook. One of them said, "Weed is safer than McDonald's."
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And there's another one, but just like in
it might make you go through the drive-through an extra span.
Yeah, I was going to say McDonald's probably actually wants weed to be legal. McDonald's probably actually wants weed to be legal, and that's probably one of the reasons why they got the 24-hour drive-thrus. Because they definitely want to. You catch those munchies, baby.
Well, back years ago, when I may or may not partook in some weed. My go-to spots
you didn't inhale. Remember,
my go-to spots were Crystals and Taco Bell.
Right. Well, I'm sure Taco Bell. No more. Well, Taco Bell has their drive-thru open until like 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, I wonder why.
If you find the Crystals, it's 24 hours. If you can find them, most of them.
Yeah, we don't have no Crystals out here.
First, you got to get your job as a city commissioner before you make that trip. You wouldn't want to be DUI.
Would it be DUI or DWI?
Driving while intoxicated, driving under the influence. They both come.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, DUI. Sorry.
No, I mean they. But still, you got to make sure you get that.
Well, we talked about this
jail free job
many times, and we all know it drives me insane that Red, you as a truck driver, you can go home, work on Monday and drink you a case of beer, pass out, and show up to work on Tuesday morning. You're still sweating the beer out. You smell alcohol. You're half hungover. Nobody says anything. But I can go home on a Friday night, smoke a joint, not show up to work till Monday. If I have an accident, they test for it. Guess what? They're going to fire me for it. And
they're going, and you also have
one is a natural plant. The other is half man-made.
Distilled.
And
well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you got to put all this stuff together, and
beyond that, as a truck driver, you would actually have to endure a lot more than just get a new job. Well, once you had that hot test. No. They have stuff in place where you can. It takes 2 years in order to reinstate yourself to a full license after having a hot drug test, and you have to
over smoking a little bit of a natural plant.
Yes. You have to have 24 months of counseling, which is paid for by you. You have to have 24. and you have to have 24 drug tests done in that same period of time, as far as that, which is paid for by you. And if you actually do have the ability, your employer is gracious enough to still allow you to go through the appeals process and keep your job there. You'll probably have to endure the randoms that will no longer be quite so random either, as far as that. So,
So see how the world works. And let's go to the NFL. You had Ray Rice, who got suspended, I think 4 games for dragging his girlfriend or wife out of the elevator after kicking her a few times. You had Ezekiel Elliott. I think he got six games for assault or domestic. You had Adrian Peterson get 4 or 6 games for child abuse. And then you got Josh Gordon, who lost 6 seasons for failing drug tests for weed.
About Ricky
6
Williams.
seasons. Ricky Williams walked away from football because he said, I want to smoke my weed.
He's like, I'm going to smoke weed, and I'm just going to keep failing my tests, and they're going to keep suspending me, so I quit. He just left it. I mean, sport is right.
Well, the Players Association has actually negotiated into it for I believe, the medical weed, or they don't test for cannabis at all at this point. They may test for other substances, but the Players Association collective bargaining agreement, they can smoke weed now. They can all smoke weed. As far as that, I don't know if they have to get now. I don't know the technicalities. Do they have to go out and get it? I mean, because if you think about it, the state of Texas, it still is not medically. It's still not a medical. It's not medically legal. They don't have medical weed in Texas as far as that. So, and you have 2 teams in the NFL that play there. So I don't know how they might get around that there. I just know that they've just dropped testing. They've just dropped testing for cannabis.
Just play a team in California,
right? California, Florida.
Whatever state.
Some of those
go to Denver for that Mile High.
Well, some of those players would get in trouble because when they were going to different states, say Colorado or Washington, whatever, they were doing it there, and then. I can't remember that. I know there was one. I know he got his suspension reduced. He wanted to get it wiped out altogether, but he got it reduced because after the litigation, I think he was in Colorado, and he smoked weed while he was in Colorado, which is illegal. But he played for, say, Philadelphia, and they tested him in Philadelphia, and deemed he failed the drug test. But when he smoked it. It was legal in Colorado, which is still against NFL guidelines. But I think I think the litigation when he claimed he smoked it, he was on his off time in a state that allowed it, so they didn't wipe it all the way out, but they reduced his sentence or his suspension.
So how would that work though, Red, on the if you were intrastate, like you didn't go out? I mean, I wonder how it works.
Well, I mean, the license is still federally regulated.
If you didn't have the CDL, you just drove, like something local where you didn't have to have a CDL.
It's about this medical card. Say you're pulling, little 30-foot trailers with Ford F-350s or something.
Right. Like I guess I'd have to go out and probably secure a medical marijuana card, and that way, if
But the medical marijuana card would then exempt you from your 4473. You notice on there, if you read it, there's a spot on there. If you have that, nope. You ain't allowed to own guns.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
There is a new questionnaire on the latest version.
In that regard, yes. I know it's there, but I've,
but if it's recreational, you don't have to have it.
Although I've only ever have had to answer yes to one question on it, and all the rest of them have been, honestly, no, as far as that goes. I just have to wonder if that's probably the one question that gets lied about the most. Because what are they going to do? Come and drug test you? Are they going to come and drug test you? You know, is the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms going to go say, "Sir, we heard you had a marijuana card, and you know, we're gonna pee test you." What was it again?
That's funny right there, okay.
No, but like I said, it's kind of one of those 6 down, half dozens to the other. Yeah.
That's what Puddin was doing to me at the beginning of the show when I tried to talk. He's putting that stuff up.
Oh yeah. You try. I did that at the beginning. But no, but still, if you didn't have the card, then you could just. I don't recall if I'm high now when I'm signing the 4473, or I was high last night. You know, because you dropped your CDL, and then you just did local stuff where you didn't have to drive out of the state if you were in a position to do such a thing. But we already know that your paycheck's boosted for having a CDL, so of course you want to keep that. You know, but of course we need this federal government, and Biden could do this now. He doesn't have to wait. He doesn't have to wait for it to run through the Senate and come.
That was one of his major platforms, wasn't it?
That he was going to legalize weed. It was.
And
I mean, I'm still holding on to my. I'm still holding on to my sundial weed stock. You know, not going to dump that one just yet. Not when it's running through. You know, but
I honestly wish they would just get over that aspect. You know, just I mean, throw the white flag up. You've lost the war on drugs. I mean, you really have. And I'm not you know, you could pee test me. You could take a hair follicle sample. Whatever it is you want to do, you could take something from me. There's, you know, my genetics going all the way back to the time of my birth and stuff like that is a contact high at a concert in the James L. Knight Center in Miami Beach, and you know that's the most that I've had as far as I knowingly have had. All right, you know, the contact high. Of course, I knew I got the contact high because everybody around us was smoking it. And, you know, and it sure did alter the mood as far as how I felt. The concert was a little bit more enjoyable.
You want to talk about a contact high? I went to Atlanta this past week to visit my oldest daughter, right?
Yes.
We stayed in a condo. We were on the 3rd floor.
Both people on the bottom floor smoked it.
I got off the elevator on the 3rd floor when we come back, like the first night, or maybe the first. Well, we got there that night. We just went out to dinner, but the next night when we come in, and I think I went down to smoke and come back up. But I got off the elevator, dude, and by the time I walked 50 feet or 60 feet to my door, dude, I was a little bit dizzy.
You was probably wanting to knock on doors and say, "Come on, man, puff, puff, pass."
That floor was smoked out. I'm telling you.
No, it's pretty stupid that, you know, this stuff isn't. I mean, again, I think we all kind of, I don't know, Spoon, but I mean, I know me and Red kind of think, you know, just decriminalize all drugs, you lost.
Well,
dude, I want him to go beyond decriminalizing it. I want him to make it legal, you know, legislate the stuff, manufacture the stuff through legal means, you know, and that way at least you
stop making artisan methamphetamine in the bathtub at the trailer park.
Well, I think we can all agree that Red said it earlier. They lost the war on drugs. They started the war on drugs, right?
Yeah, they've been starting it.
It was all a smokescreen, you know, because they're the one brings most of these drugs in, right? We still have, I guarantee, we still have soldiers over in Afghanistan's guarding poppy fields, right?
Possibly.
In Afghanistan,
Iraq, Afghanistan, one of those Middle East countries over there.
Well, no, they were guarding poppy fields in Afghanistan, and the reason, because that was a big export from Afghanistan, poppy fields.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plant, you know, it's used for other things too, you know, it's just not all heroin.
It's
You know,
used
I
for
mean, there's a
scripts.
lot of those opiate based medicines and stuff like that. You know, a country like Portugal has not only decriminalized it and all that kind of stuff. They've, you know, it's open for business, and there's probably a few other countries that are the same thing. And you know, there's got to be a demand. There has to be a demand at that point to get, you know, places to make it. I'd actually be curious to go to Portugal and you know, find out more about how it is and stuff like that. From my understanding, the country is, you know, really done
No, they
well.
it went. Yeah, no, they did well when they decriminalized it. They didn't really say, make it legal. They just decriminalized it and then treated it more like a medical. Is what I had seen on a show about it, that they made it more of a medical rehabilitation. The one I watched, the news reporter was trying to be slick, and she said, because the people get counseling instead of going to jail for being a user, they'd give them counseling, and the reporter's like, "Oh, so you want the taxpayers to pay for counseling?" He's like, "You think it's cheaper to send them to jail?" you know, I mean, it's a lot cheaper to just give them counseling.
Well, and that's one of the other things in this country is incarceration is big money.
Oh God,
Big money, because the federal government just absolutely sends these states all kinds of money to actually incarcerate these people.
money. Uh,
It's all a money racket.
well, it's money we can't afford. Money, the tax bill they want us to pay that we can't afford. It's like,
Y'all,
sorry, we can't afford that.
y'all ever watch the show Queen of the South about some of the cartels?
Mm.
And one part
I'm
of the
aware
show,
of the program. I've never actually
one of the part of
watched
the
it.
shows, it's got the mayor or something of a town in New Orleans, or of the town of New Orleans, and he's involved with the prison system and everything. So he's also a judge. So he's sending as many minorities to jail as he can because he gets all that kickback from the state and funding, you know. So that's how he gets rich. He just keeps. I think it was like over 45,000 in a matter of a few years of sending young minorities to
Well,
prison.
it's when I remember somebody was talking, and he was a bit of a hippie, and you could take the hippie argument on locking people up. Basically said as long as as well oil is worth more than a well, and lumber is worth more than a tree, then of course we're going to kill and chop them down. I mean, so if locking people up is more profitable than letting them be free, then of course then that's not the direction that the U.S. government wants to go.
Right. Going back to the Portugal thing, was that Vice News?
I
Was
don't
that
think it was.
was
I
that
think
on
it was
Vice News
Vice.
that you've seen that?
No, it was a Netflix series that was talking about weed, and basically they were going through, like, that was the one where I told you about that time when they had the DEA agent running through the mountains of Kentucky, talking about how much they got it, because Kentucky's one of the largest off-grid grow states in the country. People throw it and they grow it in the mountains up there. Them hillbillies grow it like crazy.
Some
And
true bluegrass, huh?
Who
I
you
thought,
calling a
well,
hillbilly?
I mean, it shocked me in a way, because you're watching them sit out there and you see this DEA agent talking about this state produces more natural grown weed than any other state in the country, and I'm like, you also produce probably the bulk of alcohol. I mean, you have the Bourbon County and everything else. It's like, dude, just chill out. You don't.
Bourbon Trail.
Yeah, you're not stopping all the breweries from cooking up, bottles of poison, but you want to go cut down all these bushes on the side of a mountain and think you're making a difference. Your priorities are a little off peg, but I don't know. You about ready for a,
Yep,
smoke?
we're about
Yeah.
ready to end this. It's been pretty good. I don't know about you, Puddin, but the one that kind of wanted to stay away from local, I think we've had a lot more seems like a lot more viewers and comments.
Well,
And
I
we've
know
had
a lot of them are
we've
local
had about
people.
we've had about 5 friend requests just with us being on this podcast that I've had to confirm. So a lot of buzz around.
You're
the
our
topic.
you're the social media manager.
I'm just saying there's a lot of buzz around the topic anyway.
Yeah.
When are the next elections in Portland?
There's a mayor and 3 aldermen, I think, coming up in November.
This next week, I think, is the county's elections is going on. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's November is the city elections.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Should be same time as the primaries, right?
Get
No?
things
Midterms,
lined up.
midterms.
Yeah,
Sorry,
midterms, probably.
Yeah, midterms.
Get things lined up. Start talking about it. I mean, you know,
Do we have any future announcements?
I'm not
Not
going to
yet.
announce anything right now, but working on it.
talking,
Right.
discussions.
All right.
You know,
Got your people that you're going to sit in council with, and
yeah. Apparently, $1 a month is good enough to get a Portland address. I think. If the city can at least build
$1
it
a
for
month,
$1.
you can get the whole farmer's bank for $1 a month. I mean,
Yeah, apparently,
if
and
want to
you
save
can
it,
you can get out of jail free. So why not?
Yeah.
But all right, I don't know.
The countdown's coming. We're actually might have this whole podcast. All 3 of us in the same district, same county.
next month.
Depends.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be here. You'll be here at least one weekend, I think. Well,
you're all's weekends.
yeah. Well, oh shit.
Charlie's weekend.
Yeah. No, Charlie will be working that weekend. That's right.
If he's here on that Sunday night,
That'll
I
be
can
on
always
Monday
take a
morning.
day off.
Maybe you can take a day. Well, if you want to take a day off, that's up to you.
Or we can wait to do the podcast on Monday morning. It doesn't matter.
I like Sunday.
Like Sunday night.
I like Sunday.
I wish we could do it every Sunday night.
I like Sunday night. Yeah.
Had I not been digging a hole in the desert, I would have been here on time.
All right. Well, everybody that's gonna finish watching this video later, the investigation and stuff that I read earlier. If y'all want to see it, email us at realtalkwithspoonandpuddin@gmail, and I will send it to you.
Or if you want to, just take a picture of it and put it on the Facebook page.
I could probably do that. I may try to post it on the Facebook page.
If you can get a PDF of it.
I was trying to put it on the overlay and show you on screen here, but it wouldn't let me get it on there for some reason. If I can, when we're
Sunday night beers.
if I can, when we're not on there and I can put it on there, I can probably show you next week. But I'll try to post it on the Facebook page. But if you want a personal copy, just let me know. Are y'all good? Any last thoughts, comments?
No, it was a pretty good night, other than Eric out there burying bodies for the mob, for the cartel.
He's part of that oil rig mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to get rid of a liberal.
All right.
All right, this is Real Talk with Spoon and Puddin. And
No, we do it. All right.
Episode 7. See y'all later.
All right. Later.